Welcome one and all to the first game review for the channel. The online personalities are once again slacking off and sniffing each other's bumholes. So things are once again in a dire state, and you know what that means. Your favorite commissar is once again tasked to intervene and lay down the correct public morale. So action games have been in a drought these recent years. The last dedicated action game that I've played was Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. But the last original game that I've played is actually Solstice, way back in 2022. There has been a lot of misrepresentation about the game Lost Soul aside, including from people that supposedly like the classic PS1, PS2 and PS3 era gaming. Before we begin, please note that some of this footage will be from New Game Plus. Let's start by covering the smaller topics first. Music. There was some rumor that the game's music was made with AI. So at a quick glance, the search will reveal that the OST was made by Empiria Sound, the team of Kobe Matthew Johnson, the guy that made Subhuman in DMC5. The team also made OSTs for Trek of Yomi, Exoprimal, Callisto Protocol, and Bright Memory. Now, to be fair, although there isn't any actual AI music, what there is uncommissioned music pieces from things like Kingmaker by Thomas Bergson, or To Glory by Nick Phoenix. China be China, I guess. My biggest grievance with the OST is, since not all of it is properly commissioned, that means my videos, my streams on YouTube get copyright claimed. Thank you for that. I don't appreciate it at all. While not amazing, there is nothing horrendous about the OST as it stands. So for me personally, I appreciate that they didn't go ham with the vocals. Because let's be real, most vocals in music are babble. It's overproduced nonsense that goes over the head of the illiterate masses. I mean, if you went out and asked them the lyrics to their all-time favorite songs, they would just stare at you blankly like a fucking sheep. I digress. Let's hear some. Voice acting. A lot of sloptubers have been circulating memes about how atrocious the game's VA is.
Officer, please. He's just a kid. He doesn't know the rules. We'll pay the fee. It's just that...
I don't care. We're here to collect our fees. If you don't pay on time, you need to be taught a lesson.
Leave him alone!
What's up, guys? Hope y'all are having a great day
today, just full of so much positivity and happiness.
It must deeply offend them or something, I guess. Now, I noticed it's all the same little notorious clip from the start of the game in the tutorial level. The worst and obviously most rushed part of the game. More on that later though. I hear a lot about how the English VA is ass and that I should just switch over to the Japanese instead. Bluntly speaking, honestly, Japanese is better, but the English dub is by itself completely acceptable. Hear me out, let me explain. Let me ask a question to the anti-dub crowd amongst you. How many of you have played the game on the original Chinese? Now, you do realize that the Japanese voice acting is actually a dub in and of itself of a Chinese game, right? What I mean, as a Nihongophile myself, is whether the native Japanese speaker would feel the same way about his own dub, just like the English speaker would. You see, again, I prefer the Japanese myself, but the question still stands. Furthermore, if delivery and on-screen acting are so important to you, what about all the cringe stuff you see in your favorite overproduced slop? Like say, Final Fantasy or Stellar Booty? Why is it such a big deal here but not in these other games?
Thanks for seeing me home.
Really sorry about your ass.
It's all good, bro.
Hey, got a ticket for this thing called Costa del Amor. Don't know what it is, but it's happening here, so...
It's a special event for, meeting...
Yeah, about...
They say I'm always gossiping. No secret safe with me unless I sing. Bloody blah, blah, bloody, bloody blah.
I mean, how long are we gonna cope with games we'll never want to replay again had story and acting that doesn't really read anything more than a fortune tier shitpost or a fucking porn script?
Ah, Angel. Lovely to meet you.
You don't seem very likable.
Alright. You're pretty sharp. Oh, I do like this, Angel. You really are my favorite customer. So you're leaving? I had a good time. I wonder if our customer is as satisfied as I am.
Let's leave it at that. Goodbye.
I mean, look, you can still find enjoyment in them despite their faults. A lot of our favorite games for all time had silly voice lines, like say the Dynasty Warrior series.
Liu Bei will soon learn that his compassion is no match for my sword.
Go! Ye children of the Yellow Turban!
You flaming idiots! Take this! Father, we are ready. We must destroy their formation with a beautiful one of our own. This is the art of battle. Now, you will see. I've got you now, Taishi C.
I shall accompany you.
See, my question is, why now, of all times, did everyone mutually decide to act like they have something to prove, you know?
Oh, wow. Why am I feeling so woozy? Tired.
Are we going to have to say the same thing to every single one?
Based Arena. You can't convince me that Lord Arena isn't based. Ooh, Zana.
Hold on. She mentioned meeting some Imperial guy with a pet fish. Are you Kate?
What a pet fish.
I think I'm going to enjoy watching you beat the corruption out of her.
Yes, with pleasure. To me, my favorite performance is from Lord Arena himself. His direct, cold-headed and unapologetic personality always put a smirk on my face. I was always thinking in the back of my mind, based, that's my bro. There's characters of so many personalities, you're bound to like something. Graphics. Unfortunately, my PC is overspec, so I don't feel confident to tell you the significance of the performance as a verdict. I'm not trying to humble brag here, I'm making a sincere statement. The art style of the game can be best described in one word: fun. It's not overly realistic, nor does it have a weird cartoony aesthetic, like the humans in Expedition 33 for example, or the obvious out-of-place storefront assets. What there is a small number of VFX that, in my opinion, need a touch-up on their textures, that's all. What I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, the visuals fit the motif of the world. It's a fable come to life. Starting from the first real level, you know, the one right after the tutorial level that I'll talk about again later, I noticed a colorful assortment of visuals and motifs, so I was always curious where I would end up next time. People may say that they are tired of the Unreal 4 look, but to me an art style is good, not if it's a original thing, but about how readable and how well it fits the theme. That's it, very simple. Everything else that follows is just fluff and so on. Something else that bears mentioning, people forget the fact that except for Devil May Cry 3, all our favorite classic action games were never cutting edge graphic wise for their time, now were they? Story. The story of the game is not its strongest point. Turns out the project was massively underfinanced, and that resulted in chapter creep. But we can talk about that a bit later. The best way to sum it up is if there is a war between the rebels versus Empire versus the aliens. At first glance you could think this is Star Wars China Edition. This game can be quite silly at times, like at the beginning. The protagonist Kaiser and his little sister Luisa want to inspire revolt. So during the festival in the imperial capital, they sabotage the fireworks in the hope of raising morale. But of course the mission turns awry when the Void Drax invasion happens. The Void Drax not only destroy much of the city, but they also steal the souls of many people. Luisa's soul is taken in the chaos. In the escape, Kaiser meets a mysterious black dragon, the man, the legend, Lord Arena, turning him into a gifted one. And there you have it, this serves as the impetus for the story, and a globe-trotting, multi-dimensional adventure. Like all grand adventures, along the way we meet our fellow friends. Like the archaeologist Gefia, or warrior princess Zaina, a fellow gifted one. Now she's pretty gifted if you know what I'm saying. And Victor, the Virgil to Kaiser's Dante. A high-ranking officer in the Empire's army that just wants to do the right thing even though circumstances will often, more than not allow him to. For the antagonists, we have the Emperor himself and Aruman, the leader of the Void Drax invasion and rival to my boy Lord Arena. The story can indeed be described as straightforward and formulaic. While our protagonist and the villains are the weakest personality-wise, the supporting cast, on the other hand, is actually pretty endearing.
That woman's energy. Yeah.
That woman's energy. Guys, that woman's energy, let me tell you. I can feel it from a mile away, that woman's energy. Giggity.
That's the dragon saying that, right?
Yes.
Zana.
Yeah, we definitely know why.
Ooh!
Why are you standing so far away? Afraid I'm going to harm you?
Ooh, mama.
Come now. Why are you fluttering around like a baby bird? Such a scared chick.
She's not wrong about that. Zana, do you remember me?
Do you remember me?
Was that your best line? I'm not interested in boring men. Bye-bye.
LOL.
Hey, wait up!
As I told you, Kaiser, he has the wrist. You don't understand, guys. He makes them feel overconfident so he can, like, discipline them later.
Unless you can vanquish me.
Unless you can vanquish me.
No time to waste. If you don't dominate her, she'll dominate you.
Ah! Chat, you hear this, right?
Come on, don't be shy.
I wonder what the implications.
The implications game sense.
Not bad.
Where's the implications? And despite what they have told you about our protagonist,
you never really get a sense of who he is, who he was, what he likes, how he feels about his role in all this. The fate of the entire human race rests upon his shoulders, and yet you never get any shred of fear or anger or self-doubt or anything from him.
So, you think your constitution can handle Frosthold's famed liquors? Honestly, this is my first time trying my hometown beverages. A decade ago, I was against my father's decision to build a storm wall. I thought it reeked of cowardice. So I simply packed up and left. Maybe a little too impulsive.
I don't think so. I can understand how you feel.
When I think about my father and Drogo, I'm so angry. Why should the fate of Frosthold and its people be like this?
Louisa and I were war orphans. We thought, no matter what, at least we could depend on each other. But now she...
It's all Destiny's fault. Seems both of us have been cheated by it. Gathia once told me the stars don't stand still. They are all moving away from each other all the time.
But there are also stars drawing closer to each other. Are you scared, Rena?
Scared? Of course not. It's going to be carnage, just like it was 1,000 years ago. Are you scared, Kaiser?
Yes. Yes, I am scared.
Hey, come now. You're not going to falter at the final step, are you?
No. But honestly, since I joined Glimmer, not a day has passed that I haven't felt fear. How could an ordinary person like me oppose the whole of the Imperial Army? How did I resist an emperor who's lived for a millennia? But I know, even if fear grips me, I must push forward on this path. Even if I'm crushed, even if I'm doomed, even in the face of an unbeatable monster like Aramon, someone has to step up and fight. Fight for everyone.
And even if, in the end, we don't prevail here,
igniting the people's will to resist is reason enough. And I am not ready to fall now.
Ah, that's more like it. Let's do this, Kaiser.
even the Stern Kaiser himself does sometimes show moments of humanity and vulnerability. I may be reading too much into this, but I suspect the story is in part an allegory for Yang Bing's life. Anyway, the best way I can describe it is akin to an old school kung fu movie.
Get your weapon. I already have mine. That's my arms. Your sword's good. If you should lose it, you're finished. But my arms, they always stay with me. Well, my friend, it seems you've lost your sword, don't you? Do you feel a bit nervous?
Finish him!
Even heroes have to die.
You get the common indicators: cheap props, campy acting, silly dubbing, and outrageous plots. Yet you still find it endearing enough to be captivated. Definitely an acquired taste. Can you say the same thing about Expedition 33 The Wall then? You know, the game that was supposedly the best story of the year. Like, if you take away all the French postmodernist bullshit, you know, all this obfuscation mind rot, Oh, but what is fantasy and what is real? Is real. What you are left with is a story about a woman, her fifis, and her suffering. Oh, feels bad, man. So sad. Oui, mon chéri. Tragédie. Symphonie. Like, okay, ask yourself this. If le suffering is all it takes to make a truly captivating story, then why doesn't anyone care about our suffering? You know, you and me, I mean. Or the lead developer's young being suffering. He lost his hair, his girlfriend, his health, and became enslaved to Soini, just so he could make the game he wanted to make. Like, this is all real, but we see a completely different reaction. So clearly, it has to be something else, some other reason, whether you realize it or not. Wokeness. Certain shit merchants claimed this game was DEI-ified by Sony, and that some employees, that got fired by the way, wanted to replace the Asian audience with blacks, blah blah blah, so on. You heard this circulate 1,000 times over by now. Guess what though? There are no gangs in the game, nor are there any troons or girl bosses, zero, none. The only fucking black thing in this game is Lord fucking Arena himself. As far as I'm concerned, those people can go suck on a big black dragon cock. Meanwhile, others are making a weird flex that this game bombing would somehow hurt the pocket of Soini. Well, guess what? They wanted this to bomb. This leads us to the next point. Development struggles. The only person we're hurting here is the newcomer dev who was cheated of his grant money and marketing support promised to him by Sony. We lament about base games and base devs being missing in the modern era. But let's be honest, is there anyone more based than the man who unrelentingly spent 10 years of his life and health to make a proper action game? Cross my heart, I have not seen a developer this based and unyielding since Tomonobu Itagaki himself. I hear a lot of soy boys bitch about the absence of masculinity in the industry, and yet can sniff out the testosterone in the room even if it hit them in their greedy little schnozzes. Instead, I want to have an honest conversation about how we talk about games and how modern discourse often strips away the human element and real-world challenges. The game never ever got the proper chance to enter full production in the first place. If you asked me a few years ago to name a video game I thought would never see the light of day, or even questioned whether it was a real game at all, I would have pointed you straight to Lost Soul Aside. Lo and behold, the game has actually launched, and with its release came a flood of discourse. Some of it fair, true, but a lot of it disingenuous. Straight up, the final product is what Yang Bing promised in the vertical slice he first revealed over 10 years ago. Now, whether the final product justifies your sensibilities of an ideal game is another story. So let's go through the development journey. The development of Lost Soul Aside began in 2016, not as a team project, not even as a game, really. It was a solo project by Yang Bing, an animator who just wanted to make a cool thing for his portfolio. Just a reel to show off his animation chops. In fact, the very first video dates back to 2014, when it was quietly posted on his YouTube channel. But then everything changed. The trailer went viral, and suddenly everyone, from fans to big name publishers, was asking, "Holy shit, what is this game? Where can I play it?" By 2017, Yang brought on 2 more people to help. Still, the team had no real direction, just a dream and a tech demo. It wasn't until 2018 that the vision for the actual game started to solidify, and with it, team growth. By 2019, they had 19 people. In 2020, they hit 29 people. By 2023 to 2025, the team consisted of 45 to 40 developers. Not quite the AAA size studio, but still a significant jump from a one-man band. This gradual expansion mirrored the increasing complexity of the project. With every new mechanic or system added, the workload ballooned. Combine that with a team learning as they go, and it's no surprise that progress was slow. One of the biggest misconceptions is that because Lost Soul Aside was part of Sony's China Hero project, it had a huge budget or some kind of steady pipeline of support. Well, no. The China Hero project primarily provides visibility and networking opportunities, to quote it nicely. For years, Yang and his team had to rely on domestic investors scrapping together whatever resources they could. It wasn't until 2022, 6 years later, that Sony finally stepped in with actual financial support, just in time for COVID's logistical nightmare. Multiple companies expressed interest, but Yang chose Sony for their global reach and console experience. From there, Sony's investment grew. By 2024, they were actually helping with story revisions, streamlining design choices, and pushing towards a shippable product. But the damage from earlier struggles was hard to undo. Let's talk about what almost killed this game: scope creep. Early on, the team ambitiously tried to make Lost Soul Aside an open world game, but they simply didn't have the experience or resources to pull it off. By 2019, the version of the game had completely stalled. They had to throw it out and start over. Years of work gone. Restarting costs time, but also budget. This forced them to hire less experienced staff, all that just as the pandemic hit. The game was supposed to have 10 full narrative chapters, but this got cut in half. Story depth and character arcs were trimmed, along with God knows what else. It was the only way to ship the game within any realistic timeline. Please understand, making a proper action game is very hard. You can't just slap together a flashy moveset and big numbers and call it a day. The combat system reportedly took 6 years to polish. That's longer than the full development cycle of most AAA games. The team struggled to hire experienced animators. Again, not because of lack of vision, but because of limited budget and location-based hiring challenges. This leads to inconsistent quality. Some parts feel amazing, others rushed. These are the casualties of hard limitations. Then PR disasters. At one point, a former developer leaked a fake 2024 release window and posted racial comments on WeChat, which understandably caused outrage, especially among Chinese players. Even though Yang Bing had nothing to do with it, he stepped up and publicly apologized on behalf of the entire studio. He even fired the person responsible, but the damage to the studio's reputation was already done. Face lost. After that, Sony took more control over the project's marketing and major decisions, in an extremely petty way, in my opinion. Now, in that viral Billy article everyone likes to reference, I noticed no one brought this interesting little quote to the audience. And I quote, "Vivian, the studio's planner, had already completed all planning duties and began to dabble in other aspects of the studio's operations. She was very pro-Sony with a touch of old-school Sony bravado, prone to online trolling and provoking conflicts. She had previously leaked game information and misrepresented the release date, if you recall. When the 10 black person per 1 Asian incident erupted, Yang Bing, unable to tolerate it, hired Vivian. Sony adopted a cold approach, forbidding public disclosure. The development team itself had no right to speak without authorization, let alone pricing. So basically, he did what Shift Up and Game Science already did. He kicked the Floyds off the company. But fuck him, he's a fucking asshole because he's not rich and doesn't have $1 million advertisement campaign. Right? This is also the source for the $8 million budget you hear everywhere in all these articles. The offer is approximating based off the staff size and living standards of Shanghai province. He also forgets to adjust for the budget inflation of Final Fantasy VII, That game came out in 1997. This is an honest mistake as far as I am concerned. But from what I could find in online fintech sites, considering there are 5 financiers for the project and the 2 public ones gave just over 1 million each, my estimate is $5.5 million. So why does this all matter? Here's the sad truth. In the 10 years that Lost Oversight was in development, over 50,000 people were laid off from the games industry. Hundreds of games were cancelled or lost in development hell. Dozens of studios were shuttered. Beloved IPs fade into obscurity. And where are we now? And what is the status quo that SlopTube abides by?
What is the ultimate gaming sin? Is it gameplay? It would be sweet to think so, but no, it's not gameplay. Is it graphics? That's getting closer, but not exactly the answer. What I think the ultimate sin of game design is, that can be consistently tracked across time for mainstream critics, is low production value. If there's one thing that's gonna get you in trouble with IGN or Eurogamer or these types of reviews, it's production problems. They are highly sensitive to that. And the reason why I think they are so sensitive to it isn't because they just really value smooth, well-produced games. That's something we all can enjoy, right? It's that it is the only consistent metric of evaluation that they can apply.
So good job, retards. You really know how to make the industry based again, don't you? A round of applause, please. Now on to in-depth analysis. Game design. First off, I noticed something stupid about this game. While there are no difficulties to select, there is this hidden difficulty modifier, Celeria's Keepsake. It's an accessory reward for dying enough times, up to 3 times. This is basically the equivalent of the game journal rings from Final Fantasy XVI. From what I've seen in other streams, just like FF16, people are using it without even realizing. It's the perfect Dunning-Kruger mechanic. A total scrub could clear content just as well as a good player, and the casual viewer wouldn't be none the wiser. This gimmick needs to die in a fire. The game should just let you choose a difficulty, or at the very least, make it clear that you're using the baby pacifier. None of this pussy skirting around, please. The game borrows a lot of things from FF16. In fact, it fixes and surpasses FF16. For one, the game has multiple fucking weapons. 4 pretty good, solid weapons actually. These weapons are Longsword, a balanced all-rounder that is effective in multiple ranges and reliable on ground and air. Greatsword, slow heavy hitting weapon providing us with burst damage, wide area of effect, and explosions. I recommend you learn to use the parry, it will serve you very well. Oh, you can also surf on it. Twin Pole, an intricate weapon designed for ranged attacks excelling at posture damage. The developer, in a stroke of genius, balanced it around low direct damage to avoid cheesing. It also boasts excellent aerial combat, tornadoes, and the most intricate attack chain out of all the weapons. But most of all, you get to Beyblade.
Spit
And Scythe. This is the big brain trick and set play weapon with crowd control. It is also the best counter attack. You can throw scythes, set up traps for constant damage, or manual detonation. If you want the long stylish combos, you're gonna have to learn this weapon. And the weapon's move list actually matters a lot. You see, unlike Final Farts 16, it's not about just dodging left and right like a cracked up mouse, cause it's like the icon skills doing 90% of the fucking work for you. So you just slide around until they're off cooldown, rinse and repeat. This game is even more of an RPG than the game it's fucking inspired from. Besides accessories, we have things like status effects, fire, ice and electricity, weapon trinkets for visual and stat customization. Like, it's not Neo levels of complexity, but it's still way more than Final fucking Fantasy. About the defense. In this game, defense and offense work together in a cyclic motion to take down the enemy. Successful dodges give you a stack of energy, up to 3. Your attacks consume this energy for special actions. Parrying is a bit more tight, but it lets you do things like deflect projectiles back at enemies. Also, if you parry a blue attack from the enemy, not only will you drain some of your foe's stagger, but also interrupt them and knock them on their ass, ready for more punishment. You see, while the game is a bit on the easy side, it's still a pretty deep system. A single weapon has a lot for you to learn. Upon acquiring the third weapon, Windpole, I began to realize I was scratching the surface of the iceberg. This game has a lot of tech in it. Even after the skill tree is complete, I had 1 or 3 augments for each attack. So there's this constant learning and planning in the back of my mind. How far can I take this? Just how deep do I know the system? An important thing about this game: airtime halts the stagger bar from refilling. Unlike so-called modern action games like Final Farts 16, Stellar Booty, Wu-Kang, or Kazan, the first Berserker, there is once again proper aerial combat, just like the good old days. Another cool nuance of the combat system is how it handles grapples. In this game, our grapples not only possess the property of splash damage, but can also chain to other targets. Check this out.
Gosh, so many.
Try to end it. Crush them all. I'll show you what I'm made of. Watch and learn, kid.
Double chain execute! Yes! Yes! Double chain execute, guys! Oh. Cool, right? It's not the biggest deal in the universe, but I appreciate its inclusion. Imagine if Souls-likes had this. Now, this is all cool and all, but another key component of classic action game is solid enemy design. In character action, enemy design is actually just as important as the design of the main character. Otherwise, you would have nothing to measure your power against. With good variety with different but complementary roles in their formation. Most people do not pick up on this. Another good thing, except for the boss, Lord Whitecloud, enemies do not need to rely on overly delayed bait attacks, while still being interesting to read and guess. They are also visually very epic. While there isn't any conventional bloody palace for this game, we still have a boss rush mode. This is more akin to an individually curated and remixed gauntlet consisting mostly of bosses. Level design. I have noticed a lot of people complain about the level design of this game being boring or something. The game used to be planned as an open world initially, and well, you know how that eventually went. What we got instead is more classic approach to level design. Things like platforming, secret missions, hide and seek challenges, and time trials. Over here, in the retrosphere, we love our classic game design content. Meanwhile, in the less civilized parts of the world, our very loud majority of experts love to praise Stellar Booty though.
Stellar Blade constantly disrespects the player's time and then jokes about it.
It was a waste of time.
The tone of the game is so sterile and strange though, that it's hard to tell if the game is being mocking or if the remarks about no more swimming or we're going in circles from the characters are meta or quiet cries of pain from the game's scriptwriters. In either case, Stellar Blade shows no remorse. It mercilessly pushes the player through hour after hour of empty levels, absurd fetch quest padding, and Banjo-Kazooie style platforming.
You see, this is the base game that brought us things like walking sections with cake, pool swimming with cake, passcode puzzles with cake, and other baby game puzzles, but this time with cake, with the icing on top of the cake, modern movie cutscenes, but with cake. Man, that's a lot of cake. How long till the diabetes, I wonder? Which brings me to something I've been thinking about a lot recently. The devolution of games and the gamers. Contrast this with the classic Kuma games that had actual engaging, pure content, while shaking that booty. But your favorite slop tubers don't want to bring that up because they actually suck at games and don't know what they like anyway. All they know, the one thing more important than ass, is clicks. The last decade and a half has been disastrous for gaming. The key word to describe this is atavism, the throwback of old, suppressed and lesser traits. In other words, the tendency to revert backwards. Like, okay, let's bring up Stellar Blade again. The game is a Souls-like without air combos, weapon selection, and a shitty Simon Says traffic light system. For some reason, the game inspired by Nier Automata seems to borrow more from Lies of PP for some fucking reason. This in and of itself is not a novel take, so how about this? Let's compare it to the developer's previous work, shall we? Did you know the developer of Stellar Blade, Shift Up, were actually ex-NCSoft guys spearheaded by the creative lead Kim Hyung-tae. Do you know what was the last game they developed for NCSoft? Fucking Blade and Soul, affectionately known as Booba and Soul. And lo and behold, a fucking Korean grinder pays more respect to action game design with more weapons, classes, aerial combat, and original defensive mechanics. It even has more outfits than the based Gamers game. This is a total letdown, and you jackass shills have the gall to act like you're the authority on anything. Clearly, Yang Bing upheld the standard you assholes supposedly stand for. We need indie game dev should revive lost genre, make it based again in she, please tits and ass. My Guna games have more booba and SOVL, thank you very much. Now get on my level. Rant over. Now, there are various yet serious negatives we can address in this additional segment. First off, level 1, the tutorial mission. It's ass. The unique normie animations of Kaiser, that is to say, before the dragon comes along, look weak and unpolished. This is of course the same part of the game where all the memes get clipped. This is of course within the first 2 hours of the game, aka the refund window. There's way too much talking at the start. It's best to just cut this section in half and explain the character's backstory later, in my opinion. Unfortunately, there is yet other bad things, most of which are carryover from Final Fantasy XVI's design. For one, we need a proper scoring system. I don't like that they borrowed this weird and vague wowie-zowie text bravado way of scoring your actions. Also, the difficulty of the game could have been higher, straight up, from the first playthrough. See, this is carryover design from FF16, where the pure game experience comes after your maiden voyage. Another problem is we can't backtrack, only until we finish our first maiden voyage. Besides this, we have things like the minigame sections, like the skating or the kaiju fights. Those could have used a bit more spice in them. What I'm trying to say is, look, people complain about minigames being meaningless fluff. Let's not forget, games like GTA and Yakuza were enriched by them. What matters is they have some substance and skill expression. This is why Yakuza are mostly based off of real-world games and sports. Lastly, when a fight starts, an invisible wall locks you in. It would have been nice if there was a shader or something to convey that. Nothing fancy. Conclusion. So after all this, is the game really worth $60? The answer is no. No game is truly worth $60. I would even say most aren't worth $50. That said, I would gladly pay more for a developer who genuinely cares about the medium and the audience. To me, in my eyes, it's like giving extra cash for a Kickstarter or being an investor. Regardless of your sentiment and take towards games and their pricing, ultimately we are left with asking ourselves this. If we were all like Yang Bing, then would there truly be anything we wouldn't be able to achieve? Special thanks to GameSense, Nathan Hill, and Trashman Guy for helping with the script and consulting. Go and subscribe to their channels. See you around.